Hello and welcome to a video I'm excited to film. I'm going to be talking to you guys about my auto-buy authors. Now this is something I've spoken about lots of times on my blog and other social media platforms, and I may well have spoken about it a bit on YouTube before, but I have got a very finalised list in my head of auto-buy authors and I want to share them with you. However, I have broken them into two groups. We've got auto-buy authors of books written books that I've read lots of, and then we've got auto-buy authors that I've only read one of their books, or like they've only got one book out, and that has been enough to put them on my list as an auto-buy author. So I've kind of split them into two categories because I feel like reading 5 books from one author and deciding they're an auto-buy author is still amazing, but reading one book, they have to be a brilliant writer. So I've split the two piles. I will show you the books first that I have read multiple books by this author to decide they're an auto-buy author, and then I will show you the books that it only took one book to persuade me. So the first book on that list is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is the first in a series following Pip, who is an amateur detective trying to solve crimes in her local small English village. I love this. I love the English village setting. I love that Pip is so good at solving these crimes. I love that the readers can try and solve the crimes. There's so much about this book that I just love. This is the first in series. The second one, Good Girl Bad Blood, has also come out. To be honest, after reading the first book, I probably decided Holly Jackson was an auto-buy author for me, but the second one was also brilliant. Sometimes the second book can slip a little, but honestly, Holly Jackson can write a really, really good thriller mystery, and I got goosebumps reading both of these books, so she has to go on this list because she's glorious. She writes amazing mysteries and I just want to read everything she writes. I don't really think this next one's going to be a surprise to anybody, but we're throwing Sarah J Maas on the list. I am not the biggest fan of the Throne of Glass series, and I'm happy to admit that. However, I am a big fan of the Atta series and now the House of Earth and Blood Crescent City series, because this book was fantastic. This is one of my favourites of the year, and it's also one of my favourites of all time. So she has to go on this list really, because generally whenever she writes something, it just seems to be brilliant. It just is so entertaining, her writing. It's action-packed and fun, and that's why I enjoy reading her books, because they take me away completely. It's very easy to get absorbed. They're very rarely dull or slow, so for me, she's got to go on that list because she provides me pure entertainment as a writer to a reader. Now, if you've ever read this series, you'll know why this author is in this list. That is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This series is fantastic. I am a big Alice in Wonderland lover, and I love how in Alice in Wonderland the impossible can happen, and it is like a dream in the sense of you think something can do something and it does. Caraval has very much that same kind of magic, and it feels dreamlike and fantastical and truly absorbs the word fantasy in my mind. This is a 3-part series. It's a trilogy about this game Caraval and these characters that play the game, and it's brilliant. If you've not read this series, if you've not heard of this series, please go look it up because it's fantastic, and I will absolutely read whatever Stephanie Garber writes. She has such a fantastic way of weaving a fantasy tale that she's just exceptionally talented at writing this kind of book, and I can't wait to see what else she produces. And finally on this list of books that I have read more than one by the same author of, we have got R.F. Kuang from the Poppy War. This is a trilogy of books all following Rin, who is training to be a soldier but also has some shamanic abilities and explores those quite a lot as well. So this is a fantasy warfare book. It is very in depth about the politics and the fantasy side of things, but the power struggles and the characters, I can't do this with justice by just briefly explaining it. But the way that R.F. Kuang writes is so well researched and so beautifully written that the combination is just fantastic. You can see the depth that has been put into these books, yet they never feel heavy. There is a lot of politics and power struggles going on here, but you're never bogged down with it. It's always understandable, and it's always very clear where the story has been, and it's not so clear where it's going, because that's what I love about these books as well, that she just surprises you and does anything, but you're always able to follow along, if that makes sense. I really love this book. This is one of my favourite books of all time as well. This series is phenomenal. The Dragon Republic is brilliant. The Burning God is amazing and comes out very soon. And I just love R.F. Kuang's writing and how much dedication she puts into her research, so she is absolutely on this list. These next books are either the only books by this author or the only books I have read by the author, and yet I have bought more / they are an auto-buy author for me. So, in fact, I think most of these authors only have one book or maybe 2 books out, but the first one on this list is Dean Atta for The Black Flamingo. I read this at the start of the year. It's amazing. It's told through prose, which is put Dean Atta on this list for me because I really like stories that are told in prose. However, they're not always done as well as what Dean Atta has done. The format of this book, I mean, it's got poetry format, we've got text-based images, there's so much art involved in this book. I've never read anything like this before and I absolutely adore it. It's just powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and I would really highly advise Dean Atta's writing. I think what's brilliant about the poetic way that he writes, and several other authors that write in prose as well, is that these books can be quick or long reads because it depends how you want to take that poetry and how you want to read it, and they're very much books that you want to make notes about. So Dean Atta, I think, out of all the books I've read like this, is the master of it, and he has by far exceeded my expectations of what I thought this book was going to be. It's brilliant, it's beautiful, the story that he weaves, he's just a fantastic writer and I would highly advise checking out his work. Then we've got Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maher. This is the first book in a series and the sequel, Blood and Honey, is coming out very, very soon. So shortly, she will not be she will not be an author I've only read one book from, and I am so excited to read the next one in this series. The reason I love her writing and the reason she's an author for me is because of the way she writes her characters. She writes the two lead characters in this book to have a love-hate relationship, and they're just so comical and not predictable, and I love that about them. They're not what you think they're going to be. They have a different path to the one that the arc of the story should go in, almost. I feel like there's always one direction you expect romances to go in when they have this kind of start, and I think Shelby Maher doesn't do that and gives us something different, which I really like, because as more and more books are being written, as more and more films are being made, storylines are becoming more predictable, and she just flips that upside down and just gives us what she wants and not what we expect, which I really love, and I think she's got a fantastic way of writing characters, and she's just a really fun author, so definitely check her out if you're interested. Then we have got H.G. Parry, who wrote The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep and is one of my favourite authors. I was sent this book and I read it at the start of the year, and I've been obsessed with her ever since. She is fantastic. She does have another book out that is on my TBR very high up on it, but this is a book about books. It's a book about book characters coming out of books, and I absolutely adore the concept. I love the way that she writes it, and it's just brilliant. I honestly cannot praise her enough. Her writing style is really well suited to this kind of genre as well. Like, she's not too heavy, she's not too light, she's got the perfect balance, but also to write a book about books and still portray the characters from other people's books in your own. She is very talented to be able to do that properly and do it justice as well, so I have to put her on this list because she's brilliant. This one is a very new addition to the list. This is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. I read this in August and oh my god, I loved it. This was 5 stars for me. Brilliant. It's a dark academia, mystery, mind-bending, very clever book that is about so many different types of things. I feel like this is exactly the kind of book where you could read it and your friend could read it and you could both take something totally different from what the story is about. It's honestly superb, and the writing style is so hypnotic. On the front it says it's seductive, well, it's impossible not to be seduced. And that is the word I would use, because I think the way that Elizabeth Thomas writes really wraps you up in the story, but it also makes you feel trapped in the story, not in a bad way. Like, the idea of this book is the character feels trapped, and her writing, it really makes you feel like you're lost in a labyrinth of the words almost, which is just, I just really love this book and I want more people to read it. So if you're looking for dark academia, something autumnal and just brilliant mystery weird, this is for you. I know I've seen some people don't like it because they don't like the format. I acknowledge this isn't going to be for everyone. It's quite unique in its style, but honestly, I absolutely adored it and I love Elizabeth's writing style. And finally, we have In at the Deep End by Kate Davies. This is just funny. It's such a funny contemporary, adult contemporary, very adult contemporary. It's about a woman who discovers that she is actually a lesbian after years of being unsatisfied with sex. She kind of unleashes herself and really becomes herself in this book, and oh my god, it's so funny. The writing of Kate Davies is just hilariously blunt in terms of like talking about sexual stuff. There's no taboo here, but oh, it's just so funny. This really made me howl with laughter, and I cannot wait to read more by this author because of how enjoyably fun it was. I think it's the only adult book I've got. Oh, I suppose The Poppy War could be a bit adult as well. The Poppy War borderline between adult and YA, I think, it is really more adult than it is YA. It's not really YA, it's adult. This is also adult, and I absolutely loved it. So if you want something fun, something that talks a lot about sex, something that's very LGBTQIA+ friendly and just hilarious, this author is brilliant and I want her to produce more. So those are my auto-buy authors. There are so many I could include. A couple of ones I thought about including, but I don't know whether I auto-buy them because of that specific genre that they write. So for example, Morgan Rhodes with the Fallen Kingdom series, I absolutely adore that series, but if she suddenly came out with a contemporary, I don't know if she would do that, but I don't know if I would lean towards that. Same with Bridget Kemmerer. I love the Curse of Dark and Lonely series, but I don't have much of an interest in reading her contemporary. So there's certain authors that I think are suited to certain genres. I guess I could say that about any of these ones. Probably should have just put Morgan Rhodes on the list, really, shouldn't I? Honorary mention to Morgan Rhodes because I love that series so much. I just haven't read enough of it yet to be like, yes, you are an auto-buy author, because I'm only on book 2. But let me know who your auto-buy authors are in the comments. If you did enjoy this video as well, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys so very much for watching. You can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. But for now, keep smiling and stay positive.